The problem is you have to measure it by yourself. So you literally have to sit in a room by yourself and kind of look into the future. Like, what would a successful life to you look like? Where would you be waking up?
But I always jump to determination. So whenever I fail, I actually get more determination, so it's almost a win in a weird way.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another very special, as always, episode of Next Level University, where we show you how to level up your life, your love, your health, and your wealth. For episode number 465, we have a very special, oh my God, I spit all over the place, and a very special, unique episode. We were invited to speak virtually at Mass Maritime Academy, and we took the Q&A session after we had some amazing questions from the students, and we're going to repurpose that as an episode here.
So one thing I want to say here is that this was a speech on leadership to a group of, I think, 250 plus students, and thank you, Amy, for basically what happened is the students answered or put in the chat their questions, and then Amy asked them live for us, and we think that, first of all, the questions were fire.
They were very good questions.
They were really good, and so our answers, I think, will bring a lot of value, and it's a new kind of nuance to the show.
Yes, and on Sunday, we are going to have the full speech on here too. What are the 10 things that we wish we knew about leadership when we were 21 years old? Probably the best speech, in my opinion, that we have ever given.
Yeah.
A very good dynamic with Alan and myself, but we hope you will enjoy this episode.
Talk to you soon. You guys can type your questions in the chat box if you have any. Otherwise, we're just grateful to be here, and thank you so much.
Never Quit Kid on Instagram, Lazarus88 on the gram.
We have a question.
Hammer it.
All right.
Alan, can you elaborate on the flashcards you keep in your pockets? How has it aided you on your development journey?
So, one of the flashcards that I mentioned is the top 5 regrets of the dying. I'll give them to you quickly. Number 1 is I wish I had lived a life true to myself and not what others expected of me. And again, these are Bronnie Ware's. So Bronnie Ware worked in hospice for 8 years. She just noticed these patterns, okay? I wish I had lived a life true to myself, not what others expected. Number 1. Number 2, I wish I had the courage to express my true feelings. Number 3, it's I wish I didn't work so hard. I got to ask Bronnie. I said, well, I love hard work, but only because I'm of number 1, I'm living life true to myself. And so I said, I think I'm not going to regret working hard because I'm living life true to myself. And she agreed. So now I say, I wish I never, I wish I didn't work so hard on the wrong things. Okay, so that's number 3. Number 4, I wish I kept in touch with my friends. And then number 5 is I wish I had let myself be happier, allowed myself to be happier. And so thanks to Kevin, I now journal every single day. I call it reverse engineering regret. And I have questions. Now I just revamped it. There's 10 questions, but I have one question under each of those 5 regrets. I also have other flashcards in my pocket too. One of them says, there's someone in a hospital bed right now begging God for the opportunity that you have to make a difference. That's something I think about all the time. I remember for 3 months, I was very, very ill. And it was when I was in high school and I missed a lot of my senior year. I missed safe graduation, all that stuff. And I was just super depressed. And so I always try to think about that. There's someone out there right now who doesn't have their health. And you're sitting here, you don't want to go to the gym. You don't have to do this, you get to do this. So hopefully that answers your question.
How do you personally measure success?
Oh, that's a great question. I think the problem is you have to measure it by yourself. So you literally have to sit in a room by yourself and kind of look into the future. What would a successful life to you look like? Where would you be waking up? Who are you going to bed with? What are you doing? What time are you waking up? All of those things. I measure it as this. When people say, what do you want out of your future? Exactly what I'm doing now, but exponential. I don't want to stop doing this. The fact that this is my life is literally a dream come true. So I would say you have to get radically honest with what do you actually value? Do you value money? Do you value fun, unique experiences? Do you value relationships? Do you value impact? Do you value mastery? What do you really want to do? A lot of people aren't going to get it. People still say, oh, you guys are podcasters? What do you mean? What are you doing?
What's a podcast?
But for us, this is the jam. So this is what success looks like to me, and that came from finding failure. Don't chase money. Do not chase money, because when you find it, you're going to realize that money does not bring fulfillment. It doesn't bring happiness. It doesn't bring joy. You can buy things, cool. Yes, you can buy things and that helps you. But if you're searching for happiness in an external thing, you're going to be in trouble. I think success is picking a journey and then not looking back. because we're never going to get a plaque that says you're the best podcast ever of all time. It's probably not going to happen. Maybe it will.
Unless we make it ourselves.
Yeah, unless we make it. Maybe you guys will make us one and send it. But that's not what it's about. It's about the journey. Okay? It's about the journey, not the destination. That's what it's all about.
That's a really great question, and I think you should keep asking that question all the time. One of the things that we didn't mention in this leadership training is that questions are the answer. So John Maxwell wrote a book called The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. He also wrote a book called Great Leaders Ask Good Questions. And if you're not journaling every day, I think, so they often say that females mature quicker than males. I honestly think it's because of the diary. I think they have a diary earlier. Okay, imagine if you live every single day and then you reflect on the previous day. How do you make better decisions when you don't reflect on the past, right? And so I think, to answer your original question, I will tell a quick story. So my girlfriend's little sister, her name's Ella, asked me, if you won the lottery, what would you do? And I sat with that for a second, and I'm like, okay. She's like, yeah, $30 million. Like, what would you do with it? And I said, honestly, Ella, I would do more of what I'm doing now, but if I'm honest with myself, I would start my philanthropic efforts sooner. And that was a mirror for me because it's like, well, then why aren't you starting it now, right? But if you can't answer that question the way I did, and by the way, I would never have been able to answer that question as well as I did. And she even said, she's like, that's the best answer I've ever heard. Normally it's the boats and the jet skis and the yachts and all that stuff. And that's all great. And again, what Kevin said about the money thing, money will buy you choices, but if you make bad choices, I had a lot of money, but I wasn't making positive choices, so I was unfulfilled. So 2 answers to the success. Number 1, if you don't want an amplified version of your current life, why not? Okay, you can change it. And then number 2, fulfillment is the tell-all. Okay, if you're chasing pleasure at the expense of fulfillment, I would argue that that's a mistake because that's a losing game. So are you fulfilled? I ask my clients this all the time. Where are you the most fulfilled? Where are you the least fulfilled? Where are you chasing pleasure at the expense of fulfillment? Chase fulfillment, and I guarantee you'll consider yourself successful.
We were talking to Wayne in the preamble. I don't even know what day it is half the time. Like, genuinely. And I don't really care. I don't care if it's Saturday or Sunday. Like, Saturday and Sunday are kind of the same, But just to go back to Alan's point, episode 7 of this podcast, when it was hyperconscious, I did by myself. Like, I was miserable at work. I hated my life. I hated my job. I remember saying, if I won the lottery, or I actually said my dream life is to wake up and not have to do anything if I didn't want to. That part I think I was jeffing on a little bit. But I said I'd be able to interview whoever I want whenever I want. I'd be able to go to the gym whenever I wanted. I'd be able to wake up whenever I wanted. I'd have an amazing family, an amazing house, and I'd be happy. I'd be fulfilled. Like, that is what we have now, right? And that's what we're on our way to. But that, again, going back to vision, you guys have to believe it at least a little bit. Because if you don't believe it, you're not going to save space for it. You're not going to chase it. You're not going to come up with a strategy. Right? You can emotionalize it, but you need the strategy too.
Fire.
Thank you. Ready for the next one?
Yes.
Okay. What made you go from almost taking your own life, and how do you go about reminding yourself that life can always be worse?
Oh, goodness. We have this very unique perspective of interviewing. We've interviewed Anthony Trucks, who was passed from foster care to foster care, kept in a cage, had to catch chickens if he wanted to eat, and was forced to lick the bottom of people's shoes until his tongue bled. I didn't have to deal with that. We've had Eric LeGrand, who played for Rutgers, and he's paralyzed from the neck down. He literally does more work. He has an attachment on his wheelchair to his mouth where he can text with his mouth. He does more work on his phone than I do. So that's one way. Find perspective. The reason I didn't take my life is because I had somebody there with me. And it's interesting. We did an episode on this last night. That wasn't the first time I wanted to commit suicide. Like, there's many times where I've thought about that. That was the closest I ever got. That was the lowest I ever was. But in that moment, I actually understood that I have a purpose. Like, I was doing Facebook videos before Facebook videos were a thing. I was coaching people before I was getting paid for it. This really illuminated to me, like, Kev, you do have a purpose. Like, you're a regular guy. You have tattoos. You make funny jokes. You watch UFC. You watch Superbad. Like, you're a regular guy, but you can be extraordinary and you can help so many people. So for me, I think it was finding the positive in the most negative situation. And that's it, in perspective. When I'm really high emotionally, I look back at when I sucked. When I'm really low emotionally, I look back at how far we've come. Guys, go look on YouTube. like back in the day. Like, look at our old studio setup. We had a damn skeleton with a tank top on.
Not a real skeleton.
And we literally are like, why aren't we famous? Like, everybody must be like missing us. So I don't know if I answered any of the question, but that's what I would say.
I interviewed Kevin last night. We kind of interviewed each other in the solo episodes, and I asked him like what he would give advice for anyone who has had suicidal thoughts. He said therapy. Like going to therapy was like the best decision he ever made. I dealt with this one time, and I ended up calling a suicide hotline and getting a program that changed my life. It was like, 5 payments of $50 or something like that. Changed my whole life. So I would just say go to therapy for sure. Be vulnerable.
Yeah, it's not weak.
It's not the end.
It's not weakness asking for help. That's the other thing. Ask for help. Again, reach out to me. I'm not a therapist, but I'll help you go. Like, I'll help you find a therapist. Literally. And if you're close to me, I'll go with you.
All right. What is the greatest lesson you have learned from failing? How do you break down a failure and turn it into a positive outcome?
Oh, boy.
These are some good questions.
These are great questions. You guys are the best. You want to hammer this one first so I can have extra time to think about it and go off your answer?
Yeah, sounds good. Sounds good. Amy, can you hammer it one more time for me so I have extra time?
Buying time?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Close my eyes for this one.
Sorry. Okay. Wait.
What is the best thing I learned from failing?
Oh, what is the greatest lesson you have learned from failing, and how do you break down a failure and turn it into a positive outcome?
So, what is the best lesson I've learned from failure? I would say that I'm stronger than I thought. The best lesson I learned from failure is that I'm stronger than I thought, and that every single time I always find a way to set a higher standard. You know what's interesting? We all have these go-to emotions, right? Some of us jump to determination. Some of us jump to self-doubt. Try to understand what emotions you jump to. For me, I had a wonderful childhood in many ways, but I also had a very, very, very challenging childhood in many ways. Obviously, my dad dying at 2 created a lot of suffering. And getting through that was really hard. But I always jump to determination. So whenever I fail, I actually get more determination, so it's almost a win in a weird way. And I can't even tell you how many times I've told Amy or Kev or the team, like, I just need to set a new standard. Like, I'm really letting myself down lately. And I feel like kind of crappy about myself for like 2 or 3 days maybe, and I'm a little off, but then I raise the bar, I set a new standard. So what I've learned from failure is that it's not final. I'm stronger than I thought I was every single time, by the way. And you can look back. You all can probably look back on something that was so hard that you made it through. And you made it through better, didn't you? On the other side, maybe you're more compassionate. Maybe you understand other people's perspectives more. Maybe you're more kind. Maybe you dropped your ego a little bit. For me, failure also keeps me humble. That's another thing. And what was the second part of the question, Amy?
How do you break down a failure and turn it into a positive outcome?
It's a report card on where your strengths and weaknesses are. So let's say Matthew McConaughey talks about this. He says, I read all my bad reviews, not because I want to focus on the bad, but because it actually highlights that which I did do well. Okay, after every single mastermind, we just surpassed week 27, we get on the team and we say likes, loves, dislikes.
We'll do it after this.
Yeah.
For sure.
We will. And so it's going to tell you where you're good and where you need work. So it's a report card. That's the point of a report card. A report card is not supposed to define you. You know, in high school, I tried to get straight A's. I wanted to get the President's Award. I needed a 95 or above on every report card all through high school. And yeah, I did that. But if I could go back, I would say, listen, Alan, this doesn't define you. One failed math test or one failed English test or 1 B+ in English, God forbid. Like, it doesn't define who you are. So it's just a report card. It's just feedback on how to get better.
I would say that the people that you look up to because they failed more than you, so now they're shining more than you. Every single one of our mentors literally says, like, yeah, it is what it is. Like, don't worry about it. Everybody fails. So I think that's it for me. Like, the people who are way more successful than me have failed way more than I have, and maybe they don't tell everybody about it. That's the other thing. Like, don't compare your crappy emotions to somebody else's highlight reel. Like, that is what it is. And I try to do a better job of showing behind the scenes of, like, guys, when I came to Mass Maritime to speak in front of you guys, that was my 4th speech I ever did in my entire life. Maybe my 3rd. Maybe my 3rd.
Honestly, but I'm not
Maybe
sure.
my 2nd. I was terrified. I was happy that I did it, but I was terrified. Now, I didn't fail, but I went back and, like Alan said, reflect and perfect. What did I do well? What didn't I do well? What can I perfect? So I think it's this. Like Alan said, in school, if you fail a test, you don't get to take it again. It's an F, and it goes on your report card, and that brings down your grade. If you're failing every day, that actually means you're getting better. If you come to the gym with Alan and I, and we say, hey, let's squat, and you say, I've never squatted more than 125 pounds. Let's throw on 130, and Alan and I will spot you. And you fail, you probably got stronger as long as you didn't injure yourself. And that's up to you to figure that out. So I think at the end of the day, understand failure is probably the biggest part of success. Anybody who's telling you that isn't successful, or they got lucky, which very rarely happens. That's what I would say. And then reflect and perfect. After every single episode, after every single opportunity we have to talk to people, we reflect and we perfect. And we go from there and understand that you're capable of getting better.
Fire.
Hammered it.
What value, oh, sorry.
Oh, you're good.
What value do you think you have in the greater world, and how much does that value matter to you?
My goodness. Every single day. Can I have that journal real quick? My yellow legal pad journal, the least sexy journal. Every day I write, and this is one of the most important things to me. Hold on. To be down to earth and real and show what's possible when you refuse to stay down. One of my biggest values is to be down to earth and real, because I don't want somebody to see me on stage and say, I could never be that. You could for sure. I am like the most regular dude. I just have very, very consistent habits. Like, I want people to be able to approach me. I don't ever want anybody to think I'm better than them. Like, that is the thing for me. My goal is to be the person I needed when I was at my lowest point. And for me, I have to be relatable and down to earth for that to happen. So that is what I live my life by.
It's fire. Amy, can you repeat the question again one more time quick?
Buying time again.
I know. Yeah. What value do you think you have in the greater world, and how much does that value matter to you?
I realize now I Jeff the question.
That's why I asked it again. Damn it. What value do I believe I have to the world? I would say a ripple effect that goes beyond my comprehension. And again, this comes back to the story I told you guys. Like, I never had an intellectual understanding of death. I have an emotional one. I see, one of my coaches, my Aunt Joanne, she coached me for a time. She founded the first, I'm pretty sure, woman-founded financial firm in New York City. It's called Element Financial. And she was a coach of mine for a long time. And still to this day, my dad is her greatest source of inspiration. Watching the effect my dad had on my mom and my sister, on, so many people, just hearing stories. I look just like him. Whenever I'm with that side of the family, they always, tell stories. And a lot of my mannerisms and stuff are like him, especially when I'm being playful. But I think that that's really the answer that I can give is, what's the impact? It's way beyond my current comprehension. It's way beyond, like, I was there for Kevin when he was suicidal. What if Kevin wasn't here? Like, what if Kevin goes and changes millions of lives? Because I was there in one courageous moment, or one moment to be there for somebody. Like, that, you can't fathom it. You can try, and I want you to try. And I think that at the end of the day, all that's going to matter is the effect you had on others. And I'll end with that to answer this question. Jim Carrey, every single day I have a morning mindset workout. And we didn't talk about consistency on here, but Kevin and I, that's one superpower we have. We're very, very consistent. Okay, so we keep showing up no matter how many times we mess up. And we've done some pretty terrible speeches, let me tell you.
Oh, yeah.
So every morning I do a morning mindset workout. And the very first video is actually Eddie Pinero's video. Your World Within is the name of his YouTube channel. But it's also a compilation motivational thing. And Jim Carrey has this one quote that I listen to every morning. And I mean actually every morning for the last 5.5 years since that car accident. Like, no BS. Every day. Every single day. He said, the effect you have on others, I can tell you from experience, is the most valuable currency there is. I rose in corporate America. I was nearly $200,000 a year at a very young age, 25, 24. And yeah, money will buy you choices, but the only thing that's going to fulfill you is the effect you have on others. And that's what I care about most. And hopefully that will be obvious to anyone who, watches me and looks closely. But honestly, I don't even need anyone else to know it, because it's what I play for. So that's my answer.
Your answer was better than my answer.
Oh, thanks, brother.
Strong word.
I think.
What do you think is the best way to help someone close to you that has been struggling to find themselves?
Oh, tough question. Tough question. Show them how cool it is to find yourself. Like Alan said, a lot of people won't do what you say, they'll do what you do. I would say that. I would say ask them the right questions. That is a game changer. That's what a coach does. Like a coach, and again, you don't want to be coachy, but a coach asks good questions, right? So like a good question might be, when's the last time you felt really good? When's the last time you felt like on point? When's the last time you felt fulfilled? What is something that you're looking forward to? What's something that you're dreading? I think questions loosen things up. And if you can ask yourself or get somebody to ask you the tough questions, we do the 7 whys. I don't know who came up with that, but
Dean Graziosi.
Dean Graziosi.
I don't know if he came up with it, but that's where
We'll give him
it.
credit.
Yeah.
Literally ask a question and then just ask why 7 times and you supposedly get to the root cause. Alan and I have done this and it actually worked. But I would say ask questions because it's on that person. At the end of the day, like you can give them all the advice in the world, but it's on them to take action. I would get them to admit what they actually want. Help them get clarity with questions.
Mm-hmm. Fire, man. The only thing I'll add to that, because that was very, very good.
Appreciate that.
Absolutely, brother. Is holding space, but also, and I think this is kind of what Kevin already said. So I was on the phone with a dear friend and client and team member recently, and I ended up talking to her a little bit about shame and how there's a difference between shame and guilt. Guilt is I had a bad behavior. Shame is like I am a bad person. Right? And so this person was dealing with some shame. So was I. A lot of mirrors from my past, doing a lot of breath work and visualization, stuff like that lately. And there was this one memory that I have that I'm ashamed of. And it wasn't like anything, oh my God, I can't believe you did that. But for me, with this higher sense of awareness, it was definitely like, you know what? That wasn't very savory. And so what I did with her is I shared my story. And I was vulnerable and I honestly just told this story for the first time to her. And afterwards, she ended up telling me what she's most ashamed of. And she cried and healed. I think healing, like crying is healing. I can't even tell you how many times I've cried with Kevin. I can't tell you how many times I've cried in the last 5 years. More in the last 5 years than the previous 25, for sure. And it's healing. And so to answer the original question is this. If you lead with your own truth and have the courage to express it, and you don't need to shout it to the world. The other person will do that too, and then they'll feel fully expressed. The suppression of self-expression leads to depression. If you have someone out there who's having trouble finding themselves, which was the original question, it's probably because they need time to verbally process. Maybe they need to bounce ideas off you. Maybe they need to feel comfortable. I know Amy, when her and I first met, I told her a lot about my past, and she immediately started opening up about hers. You know, because she realized that this outer shell of whatever you guys see is not what it really is. You know, because for all you know, I grew up in abundance. I grew up, you know, like you don't know until I have the courage to express my truth, and then it gives them permission to do the same.
All right. I'm going to combine these next two because they're very similar. What do you think is the best way to balance yourself physically, mentally, and spiritually? And then the second question is, do you guys meditate?
Oh, yes, meditation. I meditated today too. I have a couple. I can send them to you guys if you DM me. The best way to balance yourself physically, mentally, spiritually, I would add emotionally to that to start. Honestly, create a system. The best way to balance anything is to create a system to make sure you're doing it consistently. So if you want to balance yourself physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, you should be doing those things every single day. So Alan and I have systems of success. Alan introduced me to that. But every day I do 3 to 5 things when it comes to health, right? It's either the gym or yoga. It's foam rolling. And then it's X amount of water, making sure I'm eating my water and hitting my calories. Spiritual practices. I do journaling every day. I meditate every day, okay? That sort of thing. In my journaling, I do visualizations about what I want from the future, okay? Emotional. I do check-ins with my girlfriend every single night. Did you feel loved? Did you feel listened to? Did you feel supported? Did you feel appreciated? What do you need more of from me? Okay? And then we say what we're grateful for. That really helps me emotionally. And then mentally, every single day I learn at least 40 minutes. I listen to audiobooks every single day. Every single day. I could not tell you the last day I missed that. That for me keeps me balanced. And then you can really get intricate with like, oh, can I do better with spirituality? Like, what should I be doing? Breath work versus meditation, right? Should I listen to this book instead of this book? Then you can get really granular with it. That's a tough thing to say, but that's what I would say.
That was actually extremely good. I don't have much to add to that. If you have pen and paper out, write PMES, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. And then just ask yourself, what's one thing I can do each day under each of those? Kevin just gave you a bunch of examples, which are fire. You're going to get better at what you practice. If you're practicing positive affirmations, you're going to get better at positive thoughts. If you practice negative thoughts, you're going to get really good at that. I made the mistake of having a journal entry, a couple questions of like where I was messing up, and it was bringing my focus to all the negative. And my girlfriend this past weekend, it was her 26th birthday, and she's like, well, what's your journal about? We were going through it. And she's like, these are all negative. Like, because I was telling her I had a hard time. Again, vulnerability. I've been thinking a little bit more negatively lately than normal, and I realized it's because I'm kind of programming my mind to do that with this journal. So now it's all in the positive. So I'm still reverse engineering regret like I talked to you guys about, but now it's in the positive of what can I do to maximize my potential today? Who can I reach out to courageously to express my feelings to, rather than who I wish I hung out, or reached out to, okay? So whatever you practice, you're going to get better at. Write down one thing you want to practice under each of those, physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual, and you will be far better off.
DM us too. Again, DM us with any of these, DM us, and we can give you like more info for sure.
We have PDFs on all this stuff. We have resources we can send you for sure. Speaking of which, Amy, did you end up sending the links to the show as well? That's another thing.
I did it twice.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
You are the best. No matter what level you're at, there's always another level. That's the other thing too. Imagine if you had Kevin and I coaching you or being there for you 5 times a week, every week. You don't go to the gym once and suddenly you're in shape. One of the things we are most proud of is that this show is there for you anytime you need it. I use it. I listened to an episode on my way here today. It was about how to be on a winning team. Now, yeah, I'm doing that to review the rep and see where we can get better, especially Kevin. Just kidding.
It's not nice.
But seriously, it's there for you in your pocket anytime you need it. Anytime you're down, there's always another level, and that's just something I want to mention too.
Fire.
Great. How do you push through your hardest/toughest times in life, whether that be now or when you were suicidal?
Oh, boy. So this is an interesting one, and I don't ever suggest people do what I do, but when things are real, well, there's a couple ways. If things are like really hard and it's not just emotional, it's not just like, I don't feel like doing this today. Like, I'm not feeling it. I didn't get a lot of sleep. Like, if you're really struggling, I would take time to rest. You need time to rest and recover. Like, I literally some days don't look at my phone and I just take the day to be. Am I leaving impact on the table long term? Yes, I am. But I'm also leaving way more impact if I don't. Like, if I'm doing 10% days, I'd rather just take a day and get myself back together. So I think that is something so important to understand, whether it's your emotions telling you like, you need to take a little rest, like you're just tired, or is it like deep within you and knowing of like, look, I need to be. Like, I need to be. That's one thing. The other thing, have a quality team of people to lean on. I can text Alan and say, yo, I am struggling. We've done it. Like, when I was dirt poor, couldn't afford Christmas presents for my girlfriend, which fires me up if you can't tell. I told Alan, dude, I need help, man. I need help with sales. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how I'm going to be profitable. I don't know how to make money. Ask for help. Like, if the people in your life, and this is a hard truth, if the people in your life aren't helping you, they're probably not the best people to be in your life. There's lifters and there's leaners. You want to be around lifters. You want to be around people that are lifting you up, not leaning on you all the time and holding you down and not there for you. So I would say it's, as much as it is about you, it's about the people around you. If you have a good group of people around you, it's going to be far easier to get through it. And honestly, it's almost hard for me to look back to when I was suicidal because it seems like it was so long ago. And that is something I'm afraid of. I'll forget what that was like, so I can't help as much. But it was Alan. I don't know. If I didn't have somebody to reach out to, I don't know what I would have done. It wasn't like... It was him. It was him. I'm 4 hours away, like literally 4 hours away from anybody who cares about me, right? Like in this crusty hotel room doing a job I hate with people that don't care about me. Like, they didn't care that I was miserable on the road. I told them that. They didn't care. So I had to reach out to somebody who I knew loved me, and that's what I would say. I would say get around more love. Yeah,
that's the best answer there is. Get around more love. The only thing I would add is to figure out what inspires you, and I appreciate that, man. It's crazy. It's crazy to even think back to that.
Right.
What inspires you? Do you have a movie that's a go-to that gets you back in your heart? I have a bunch of those. Do you have a certain book? The Alchemist is one of my go-tos when I'm down. A Man's Search for Meaning, one of my go-tos when I'm down. I also have a folder called My Deepest Why. It's in my Dropbox. Every time I ever get reached out to by anyone saying that I changed their life, I screenshot it and I save it in my private folder. Okay? I've been doing that 5.5 years. I have hundreds. Honestly, maybe even 1,000 at this point. I would have to look. But it keeps getting bigger and bigger. And when I'm down, I look at that. Kevin goes back and looks how far he came. I look at that folder, and I see how many people we're helping, how many people we're inspiring. I remember this one woman reached out to me with her husband, and they said, your post resonated with me so much, and I want you to know that our child passed away yesterday, and you were there for us during a dark time. And I'm not going to lie to you. I post things on social media. I've gotten a lot of hate. I've gotten a lot of judgment. I've gotten a lot of people like, wait, you're a podcaster? Like, what is that? All that stuff. Honestly, like genuinely, I've gotten made fun of a lot, especially by my old friends. None of it matters compared to the people I'm helping. And I had to go through that and just be judged. One of them actually reached out to me, and I tell this story saying, I was a real dick to you at the beginning of your journey, and I'm really sorry. And that meant a lot to me. But it took 4 years for that kid to stop talking crap behind my back. And yeah, obviously I'm still a little salty, but seriously,
like pain in those eyes.
Yeah, right. It's just one of those things. Like, there's two common denominators to everyone who ever achieved their dreams. Number one, they got laughed at. Number two, they did it anyway. I go to that thing that inspires me, that folder. Go to what inspires you. Go to where there's love.
Why power too. Go back to why power. Like, I think that's it for me. Like, it's not even that I want to be the person I needed. I physically have to. Like, I cannot not respond to a DM. It's like a thing for me. I have to be there. So when I take days off, I literally the other day had an off day, right? Mm-hmm. We're rebranding. I don't know what I want to name the show. We've done 460 episodes. This is who I am, blah, blah, blah. I didn't do like almost any work, but 2 people messaged me asking about relationships. Like, hey, I just went through this really bad breakup. Do you have any advice? I literally spent a couple hours DMing this girl to help her. Like, literally. I said, I actually want to know what you're going through. I'm not just saying you can vent. Like, tell me. I actually want to know, right? So for me, it helps to connect with why you started in the first place. Like, why did you start this? Because you want to help people. You want to impact people. For me, my girlfriend, like, I always cry when I talk about her, but she's the reason. Like, I will not fail because of her. I will not. I guaranteed I will. And she doesn't care about money. She doesn't care about cars or any of that. But I want to give her the life she deserves, and I will not fail. Like, I don't have it in me. Never quit for a reason.
Who are some people that inspire you, and is one of them Gary V?
Gary V. You want to go first?
Gary V's an interesting cat. I think he's got a lot of value. I think that there's a lot of people who inspire me. I wouldn't put him at the top of the list necessarily, but if you're listening, I apologize. So who inspires me? I would say Tony Robbins inspires me a ton. A lot, honestly. Good heart. Helps a lot of people. I would say anyone who, this is probably not the answer you're looking for because you probably want more specifics, but I have my heroes and I have them all listed out, like The Rock, Jim Rohn, Wayne Dyer, Tony Robbins, Darren Hardy, like that. If you want the list, like I've got that, but I don't think that's the real answer that I want to give here. Anyone who could have been nothing and made something of themselves. There's something about that. We interviewed Wayne. Wayne had medical challenges that not none of us, but I certainly can't fathom. And he made something of himself, and it's absolutely beautiful. And so that's what I aspire to, and that's what inspires me. My go-to movies are always the people who overcame tremendous adversity. Same. Our best interviews were people who overcame tremendous adversity, and you heard about some of them. That's what inspires me, and that's who I look up to.
The Pursuit of Happiness is my favorite movie because when all the cards were down and the odds were stacked against Chris, he did it anyway. Like that inspires the hell out of me. People who stand up for what they believe in, people who stand up for other people. I've always loved boxing and mixed martial arts. I always loved hockey, and I always loved the guys who fought and stood up for their teammates. That's always been a thing for me. That inspires me. Alan inspires me. My girlfriend inspires me. Dave Meltzer, Evan Carmichael. Gary V's cool. But he's way more hardcore than I think. That doesn't necessarily inspire me. I need somebody to touch my heart. So anybody who touches my heart inspires me.
What's your opinion on social media affecting success and self-awareness?
Oh my goodness. Honestly, I literally did a rap about this, okay? If you use filters and I'm going to be hardcore. I'm going to be hardcore right now. If you use filters on your pictures, you are jeffing because that's not what you actually look like. And if you're kidding yourself into thinking that, it's going to hurt you long term. When it comes to success, it's an amazing tool because we can interview David Meltzer by sending him a DM, right? Like, that's amazing. I would say now more than ever, technology is such an amazing opportunity, but also with that opportunity comes a lot of distraction. You have to be the most consistent, disciplined version of yourself you've ever been. So if you're comparing yourself to anybody's life online, I think you're playing a dangerous game because, again, I don't know that I've seen a ton of people post selfies when they're crying into their pillow at night. It doesn't really happen. So you're not really comparing yourself to their real life. But I think it can help you be successful. I think it can help you be uber successful as long as you're uber disciplined.
Fire. I would say, you can use a knife to cook someone you love a meal, or you can use a knife to kill somebody. Like, it's not the tool, it's the wielder. And so if you're out there, social media is the greatest tool we've ever had when it comes to connectivity.
Wild.
And if you use it you're either going to use it for good or you're going to use it for bad. Don't fall down the rabbit hole of thinking that someone else's life is great. Kevin and I have met people. The reality is always different than the even with us. Okay, I was a fitness model. This isn't about me. I took hundreds of photos. I cherry-picked the best ones. Like, you're not going to see the ones that weren't good. People are posting the ones that get attention. And unfortunately, what gets attention is often the shinier stuff, but it's not about that. And I've actually gone away from fitness modeling kind of for that reason, because I don't think it's really where the value is. I think the value is in my head and in my heart, and I've really gone that way with things, fortunately. But we've hung out with the models. They don't look like they do on Instagram. There's a lot of things you can do with Facetune and video editing and filters and all that stuff. Like, do not compare yourself to the Instagram land is fake. Period. Just, it's fake. If there's some people real on it, go to that. Unfollow the fake. I
would say that this too. Understand, if you're posting, understand why you're posting. Okay, and I always use an example. We did an episode recently on this. There are certain people on my Instagram where I know if I click on their story, there's a good chance that they have some sort of low-cut shirt on with their breasts hanging out possibly. Why? Because they're doing that for significance. Okay? I happen to get my significance from adding value. So I would say if you're following people who add value and that's their form of significance, you're going to be way better. If you're following negative stuff, just like we talked about with visualization, meditation, and journaling, you're going to get more of that. Social media will affect your mood, so allow it to affect it in a positive light. That's what I would say.
Mm-hmm. You want a good example of someone who uses social media very well? Tori Aletto.
Yes.
At Tori Aletto, TORYELETTO. She's a relationship therapist. All of her quotes are fire. She's adding real value. Imagine if you use social media to connect with people you care about, to network, all great, but also follow people that add real value. And honestly, Kevin and I, at the beginning of this journey, we unfollowed everything that wasn't valuable. Like, get rid of the nonsense. It's not helping you. If it's not helping you, it is hurting you, because your attention controls what you say, think, and do.
Fire. Cool.
How do you differentiate helping people with being used by people? How do you set good boundaries when they've been eroded to nothing over time?
Wow. Great question. That is a great question. Honestly, I think this has to do a lot with leadership, believe it or not. I try to be so giving with my time, with my energy, with my emotion, with my money, that I think it's almost like you have to vet the person so well. Like, you have to know going in that this person is here for this reason. And it's so hard to do. It's so hard to do. But like, so Gretchen Rubin has this book called The Four Tendencies. And most people are obligers. And what obliger means is it's hard for you to say no. You have a homework assignment due, but you'd rather go see your friend and help them move because that's who you are. You don't want to let people down. If that's you, saying no and setting boundaries is very difficult. I would literally suggest you read that book called The Four Tendencies by Gretchen Rubin.
Absolutely.
Because that, honestly, that will do you way more justice than me, because it's easy for me to set boundaries. Because I've always been the guy who just kind of like cuts people out of my life. I don't suggest you do that. So I probably am not the best person to answer that question.
Mm. Great answer. You need to be in abundance. So don't overgive to the point where, I'll use Oprah. She says, like, when I first started to get really successful, people asked me for money, But what I realize is that's not sustainable. So imagine there's two people, okay? One person starts a nonprofit that makes $100,000 a year, and they give $80,000 every year, and then 100 turns into 120, 120 turns into 140. It compounds over time. They give 80% every year versus someone who has $100,000 and gives it to everybody. Okay, one person gives away everything they had. The other one created a money machine that could be abundance for everybody. So think of yourself as a business in terms of your time, energy, and money. You only have so much to give every single day. You're going to have to give it in a sustainable way that's maximizing the long term, not just right now. It's very M answer. Huh? Go ahead, Amy.
What should you do with a friend who you want to help but won't help themselves?
Tough one. I would argue that friend might be a leaner. Honestly, like, you can try to put as much time and effort as you want, but at the end of the day, if somebody doesn't want to help themselves, it's not going to happen. Like, the teacher will appear when the student is ready, is the saying. There's a reason. Like, honestly, if somebody is watching or listening to this and they don't care what we're talking about, they're not going to get anything from it. Versus maybe somebody who is like, oh my God, I really need like some motivation or some inspiration. They watch this completely differently. So I would love to give you the answer of like, well, you can have them watch this or listen to this or listen to this. Again, I would go to asking questions. But at the end of the day, and this is going to be the hard truth, just because you're friends with somebody, just because you went to school with somebody, just because you have nostalgia with somebody, doesn't mean you have a future with that person. I know it's hardcore, but that's one of the most painful things that we've dealt with. Like, I ask this question when I go and talk in front of people. Are the people in your life the best from your past or the best for your future? I understand wanting to help. I love that. But from my experience, trying to help usually ended up with me being hurt because the person never took my advice. Maybe I didn't have the results they wanted. I don't know. But I do think in the long term, that's probably a somewhat of a losing game, unfortunately. I hate to be the guy that says that, but
I would say give a couple chances. John Maxwell says this. He says, I cannot do anything for an undisciplined person. So if you're giving advice or giving support or giving love, that's a really beautiful thing. But just understand that it's the same as the answer I gave last time, which is like one of them is sustainable and one of them is not. I've had people in my life that I've tried so hard to pour into. One of the best parts about coaching is they're paying you for help. So they're there for that reason. And this will resonate. So when we did Your World Within Live, we did it at a hotel in Hollywood Beach, Florida called Margaritaville. Everyone who was at that event to learn and to grow was in a completely different headspace and mind space than all the other people at the resort. It was so obvious. If you had a lanyard on for Your World Within Live, you were there to learn and grow and design a life on your own terms and like to really get value. If you're there at Margaritaville on vacation, you're there to escape your life. If you're trying to help someone who doesn't want to be helped, what if you focused on helping people who do want to be helped? And that's just the question I would pose.
Tough one.
Yeah. It's a great question.
That's all the questions right now, unless
my goodness,
anyone has any more.
That was awesome.
We love you guys. We appreciate you guys coming.
Thank you so much, Wayne, for having us. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming. Thank you, Amy, for everything.
Yes, thank you so much.
You are
You're
amazing.
welcome.
You're a champion.
And for volunteering your time for us.
Wayne,
go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I didn't know if Wayne wanted to come or are we just bailing?
I don't know. Wayne, what's the outtake here?
Yeah, we're all set. Thank you for your wonderful presentation. Really enjoyed it. I was able to take some notes too. I always enjoy listening to you guys, and thank you.
Thank you, Wayne. We appreciate the opportunity.
Wayne, thank you so much for having us. Amy put the link in the chat for our podcast.
Yeah.
Reach out on Instagram or check out our podcast anytime. Thank you so much again for having us, Wayne. We appreciate you. Thank you, everyone, who asked a question. Hopefully you got some value, and reach out soon.
We love you.
Talk to you soon.